Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for Thursday, July 10th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks. It's going to be 5 players in total, 1 pitcher, 4 hitters. That's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And then after that, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Thursday's slate overall. In the morning, I'll be listing my early morning weather report. That'll have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain listed down there. And then I will also be listing as many of the starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely make sure that you do check up down in that comment section, especially as we do get closer to lock, so that you do have the most up-to-date and relevant information, especially as we do head into lock. But without further ado, we'll get started with the core picks. We're going to start off at that pitcher position with Spencer Strider of the Atlanta Braves, $9,800, averaging about 32 fantasy points so far in this season. He has very limited history versus the Athletics in the past, so typically something that does favor the pitcher side of things. Not the greatest pitching slate, if we're being completely honest. He looks pretty decent. Brian Wu looks pretty decent. And then everybody else you're kind of taking a stab at. And, Brian Wu is going against the Yankees, so that is a matchup that could go very poorly for him at the same time as well. So Spencer Strider, I would assume, is probably going to be the most popular pitcher on this slate just in general. And if we look at what he's done so far in this season, he's currently at 3 wins. Here is at 3.93. Obviously struggled a little bit early on coming back from injury, so that did limit him a little bit from that perspective. Still averaging 32 fantasy points per game at $9,800. Definitely does look like the best option at pitcher on today's slate overall. Then we move down to our hitters. We got Jonathan Aranda, $3,200, averaging just over 10 fantasy points per game on the season. Going against the Boston Red Sox, Walker Buehler is their expected starting pitcher, and he is 2 for 4 with 1 home run versus Walker Buehler in his career, and he is currently on a 4-game hitting streak. 2 of those games have been multi-hit games, 1 home run during that time span, 2 double-digit performances, and 3 games with at least 9 fantasy points or higher. Jonathan Aranda is having a really solid season. He's currently hitting .327 with 11 home runs, 49 RBIs, once again averaging over 10 fantasy points per game at $3,200. Then we move down to shortstop once again with Corey Seager. He's $3,500, averaging over 10.5 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against Los Angeles Angels. Jack Konkowitz will be the expected starting pitcher for them. He is 1 for 2 versus him in his career. He has at least 1 hit in 12 out of his last 13 games. He has 4 multi-hit games during that time span, 6 home runs, 9 double-digit performances in 12 games, at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So once again, Corey Seager's really turned it on as of late, up to a .251 batting average, 13 home runs, 28 RBIs. Once again averaging over 10.5 fantasy points per game at $3,500. And then we're going to move down to his teammate in the outfield with Adolis Garcia, $3,000, currently averaging just over 8.5 fantasy points per game on the season. Kind of been a down year for him so far. Goes against the Los Angeles Angels. Jack Konkowitz still the expected starting pitcher for them. He's got some pretty good history versus him in the past, 2 for 4 with 2 home runs. And he is currently on a 4-game hitting streak. There's no home runs during that time stretch. Only 1 double-digit performance, 1 game of 9 fantasy points or more. So a little bit rougher for Adolis Garcia so far this season. He's got a .229 batting average, 10 home runs, 50 RBIs. Once again, averaging just over 8.5 fantasy points per game at $3,000. I'm banking on that past history versus Konkowitz, and I do like pairing him with Corey Seager, especially if you're going out and building a Texas Rangers stack just in general. But at the same time, there is a little bit of risk with how hit or miss he has been so far this season, but as of late, he's been doing a little bit better. And then last but not least, we're going down to Taylor Ward on the opposite end of that game. $3,200, averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the Texas Rangers. Patrick Corbin is their expected starting pitcher. He is 4 for 10 versus Patrick Corbin in his career, and Taylor Ward has at least 1 hit in 10 out of his last 11 games. 3 multi-hit games during that time span. Only 1 home run, though. That's kind of like the one detriment there, but he's been playing really well. 6 double-digit performances, 8 games of 9 fantasy points or higher. So definitely do like the floor of Taylor Ward, especially what he's been able to do as of late. He's a guy that typically is left-handed pitching pretty well. And if we look at what he's done so far in this season, .226 average, 20 home runs, 59 RBIs. Once again, averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game at $3,200. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do have listed here, you got $12,300 remaining, just under $3,100 remaining per player. So looking a little bit more like a balanced build day, especially the rest away from here. But stacks will obviously play a pretty big role in that overall. Going to be a lot of interesting names, a lot of interesting stacks out there, even on a smaller slate just in general. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Thursday's slate. So we are going to start off with the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers going against Jack Konkowitz. Not a long list history there, but they have hit him pretty well in that small sample size. And then we got the Tampa Bay Rays going against Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler is a right-handed pitcher. The Rays lineup, typically it's right-handed pitching pretty well, so definitely do like getting the guys like Jonathan Aranda. Brandon Lowe, if he ends up playing, he did miss on Wednesday due to an issue with his side. Technically still have him in the cheat sheet, but definitely do like getting to the Rays team quite a bit. And then on the opposite end of the game, Red Sox do look pretty good versus Taj Bradley, who's been very, very hit or miss so far this season. And then last but not least, we have the Mariners going against Marcus Stroman, who has looked pretty rough since returning to the rotation. So a lot of good potential stacks out there. Feel free to mix and match as you do see fit. But with that being said, these are my core picks as well as top GPP teams to stack for Thursday, July 10th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in that comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then once again in the morning, I'll have my early morning weather report. That'll have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And then I will be listing as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely be on the lookout for that, especially as we do head into lock. But with that being said, if you're brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick video, typically Monday through Friday. I got my CFL DFS video coming out once a week. Typically, that comes out on Wednesdays. This week, it's coming out on Thursday since the first game of the week will be on Friday. So definitely be on the lookout for that if that's something you're into as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user to either one of those sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks, it's a 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's a 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for Thursday, July 10th.